Have you ever met someone who is terrifyingly certain that they are right? Someone who doesn't just have an opinion but believes they are the chosen agent of justice or God or the absolute moral truth. They don't doubt. They don't hesitate. They look at the world in black and white, and they are ready to destroy anyone, even their own family, to uphold their version of righteousness. We see this everywhere today. On social media, in politics, and religious extremism. The conviction that I am good and you are evil. But what if that certainty is built on sand? What if the very foundation of their morality is logically impossible? Today, we are going to the steps of the King Archon's court in ancient Athens. It is 399 BC. We are about to witness a conversation between two men. One is Socrates, an old man who is about to be put on death trial for corrupting the youth and inventing new gods. The other is Euthyphro, a young, arrogant religious expert who's there to prosecute a murder case. But here's the twist. Euthyphro is prosecuting his own father. Most people in Athens thought this was crazy. To sue your own father was considered deeply impious. But Euthyphro doesn't care. He says, I know what the gods want. I know what holiness is. My father is a murderer, and justice must be served. Socrates, with his trademark humility, which is actually a trap, says, Wow, Euthyphro? You must be incredibly wise to be so sure of yourself in such a complex matter. Please teach me, what is piety? What is holiness? Because I am being accused of being unholy, so if you teach me, maybe I can save you. And so begins one of the most important philosophical boxing matches in history. This isn't just a book about ancient Greek gods. This is a book about definitions. It is a book about authority. And it is a book that asks the single most devastating question in the history of ethics. By the end of this video, you will never use the words good or bad in the same way again. The core message of Euthyphro is not about finding the answer. It is about exposing the ignorance of those who think they already have the answer. It is a warning against dogmatism. Socrates challenges Euthyphro to define piety, or righteousness, holiness. Euthyphro tries again and again. But every time he gives an answer, Socrates asks a few simple questions that make the answer collapse. The central theme here is the search for the essence eidos versus the attribute. Euthyphro thinks he knows what good is because he can point to examples. Doing what I am doing now, prosecuting a murderer is good, he says. But Socrates isn't satisfied. He says, I didn't ask for a list of good actions. I asked for the definition of good. What is the single standard by which all good things are good? This is the philosophical equivalent of asking someone, what is a car? And then pointing to a Ferrari, then a Ford, then a Toyota. You say, no, those are examples. Tell me what makes a car. Is it the engine? The wheels? Euthyphro cannot do this. He has memorized the rules, but he doesn't understand the principles. The book teaches us that true knowledge requires us to move beyond memorized slogans and specific examples to understand the universal concepts behind them. Without this, our morality is just prejudice dressed up as wisdom. Now, let's break down the three key insights that shatter Euthyphro's worldview and might shatter yours. Insight number 1. The difference between an example and a definition. When Socrates asks, what is piety? Euthyphro first says, piety is doing what I am doing, prosecuting the wrongdoer. This sounds confident, doesn't it? But Socrates gently points out the flaw. He says, but there are other pious things, aren't there? Euthyphro agrees. Then Socrates says, you haven't told me what piety is. You've just given me one instance of it. This is a massive insight for our modern lives. How often do we define things by pointing to examples? What is success? Oh, it's having $1 million like Elon Musk. What is justice? It's putting criminals in jail. No. Those are examples. Socrates demands the form, the blueprint. If you cannot define the essence of success or justice, you don't actually know what they are. You are just mimicking what you have seen. This insight forces us to stop being lazy thinkers. It forces us to ask, what is the common thread that binds these things together? Insight number 2. The Euthyphro Dilemma. This is the heavyweight champion of philosophical questions. Euthyphro eventually tries to define piety by saying, piety is what is loved by all the gods. It seems like a solid definition. If God loves it, it's good. Simple. But Socrates drops a nuclear bomb of logic. He asks, is the pious loved by the gods because it is pious, or is it pious because it is loved by the gods? Let that sink in. It sounds like a word game, but it splits reality in two. Option A. The gods love it because it is good. If this is true, then goodness exists independently of the gods. The gods are just recognizing the goodness, like you recognize a beautiful painting. This means God is not the source of morality, but subject to it. Morality is a higher standard than God. Option B. It is good because the gods love it. If this is true, then morality is arbitrary. If the gods decided tomorrow that murder was good, then murder would be good. There is no intrinsic reason for anything to be right or wrong. It's just the whim of a dictator. Euthyphro is stunned. He wants to believe that goodness is intrinsic, option A, but he also wants to believe that his authority comes from the gods, option B. He cannot have both. This dilemma exposes that appealing to authority, whether it's God, the law, or tradition, is not enough to explain why something is good. We must search for the intrinsic value. Insight number 3. The value of aporia, confusion. By the end of the dialogue, Euthyphro is frustrated. His definitions have all been tied in knots. He says, Socrates, you are making my arguments run away like statues that won't stand still. And what does he do? He runs away. He says, I'm busy, I have to go, and leaves. He refuses to engage further. Socrates, on the other hand, is left in a state of aporia, a Greek word meaning impasse or confusion. But here's the insight. Socrates is the winner. Not because he found the answer, but because he realized he didn't know it. Euthyphro leaves with his arrogance intact, about to potentially ruin his family, still ignorant. Socrates goes to his death trial with a clear mind, knowing the limits of his wisdom. The book teaches us that confusion is better than false certainty. Being stuck is the beginning of learning. Running away from the difficult questions to cling to your old beliefs is the ultimate act of cowardice. So, how do we apply this 2,400-year-old conversation to our lives tomorrow? First, audit your definitions. The next time you get into an argument about freedom, justice, or respect, stop. Ask yourself and the other person, before we argue, can we define what that word actually means? You will be shocked to find that 90% of arguments are just two people using the same word to mean different things. Be like Socrates. Demand the essence, not the example. Second, test your authorities, the dilemma check. When your boss, your politician, or your spiritual leader tells you something is right, ask the Euthyphro question. Is it right because they said so? Or did they say so because it is right? If it's right because they said so, you are following a tyrant. If they said so because it's right, then you should be able to understand the reason yourself, without their authority. Don't be a sheep. Look for the intrinsic value behind the command. Third, embrace the I don't know. We are terrified of looking stupid. We want to have an opinion on everything. Euthyphro teaches us that the most dangerous person in the room is not the one who knows nothing, but the one who thinks he knows everything. When you hit a wall in your thinking, when you feel that aporia, don't run away like Euthyphro. Stay there. That confusion is the sound of your brain growing. That is where philosophy begins. The dialogue ends abruptly. Euthyphro rushes off to court, likely to prosecute his father. Socrates walks off to his own trial, where he will be sentenced to death. One man lives in the comfort of his delusions. The other dies for the sanctity of the truth. As you walk through the world of loud opinions and absolute certainties, ask yourself, are you Euthyphro, clutching a list of rules you don't understand? Or are you Socrates, brave enough to ask why? Even if you never find the final answer? The unexamined life is not worth living. So start examining.